Well, you stole my line. I wanted to say now for something completely different, although it's not, of course, the most original line. But before I'm going to speak about this project that I'm now involved in, just want to share with you my maybe somewhat odd way how I became a part of the CEU experience. In my case, this involved actually first that I stopped my initial studies, and then I pursued a journalistic career for a few years, and actually only once I realized that this might not be the best life scenario for me, that I applied for CEU, got enrolled, and probably many of you who were there never regretted this for a second. Of course, because this was such a great life experience, where I gained so many lifelong friendships, and also it provided me with many opportunities, but it also shaped me professionally. Kind of gave me confidence that it's really worthwhile and that it's kind of desirable to go and pursue some projects that go beyond these strict academic disciplines, but also beyond academic life as such. My project that I'm now involved with, that I'm gonna kind of present here, is part of my parallel career as a kind of curator, which I embarked upon relatively recently. So what I'm going to talk about here is a network of simultaneous gallery exhibitions that will be held in Zagreb in 2015 in March, and that I'm doing with my colleague, film and music critic Željko Luketić. His CV is quite thick. He has done a lot of things in his life. Most recently, he edited an anthology of electronic and synthetic music created in Socialist Yugoslavia. That was a result of many hours of work in Yugoslav archives. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that our joint project also deals with a kind of forgotten segment of popular musical heritage of Socialist Yugoslavia. I'll stop for a moment and give you a preview of what is it about.
Disco rhythm, disco rhythm, disco rhythm.
Anyone who wishes to dance is free to do so. If only my history teacher from primary school would know what I'm researching. Yeah? So, just to give you a background, so the clip is from the 1980. It is from Sedmorica Mladih, maybe some of you know. So this was extremely popular music entertainment TV broadcast that featured this quite versatile group of musicians which easily shifted from one genre to the other. They also had some comic ambitions that were not that successful from today's standards. And the singer bombshell, I would say, it was Moni Kovačić. I don't know, maybe you heard about her. So after years spent abroad, she returned to Yugoslavia. Her father was American, her mother was a Slovenian, with the aim to pursue a musical career in socialist Yugoslavia. And actually, she soon became quite of a media attraction. Was also involved in a sex scandal when some of her nude photos were discovered by a mainstream press. That at first she denied them and then kind of tried to explain what was behind. So the link between this most popular broadcast and Moni is of course the subject of my research, and this is the socialist disco music as it evolved in Yugoslavia from the late 70s and early 80s. Now, of course, the question is, why would anyone like to research this except for fun, yeah? And why do we think this is important, and why we think that this is worthwhile that we present to the public at large? Well, there are several reasons, actually. I will try to narrow this to three core ones. So the first one is that we are both kind of music freaks and kind of annoyed with the common knowledge about the popular music in socialist Yugoslavia, which we think that in general is concentrated, and all of the serious approaches to this kind of form of popular culture centers on so-called new wave, which is kind of musical episode that is considered quite rightfully to be an international and relevant phenomenon that successfully merged these progressive social ideas with real authentic artistic value. And actually the phenomenon acquired mythical status, which is, as I say, quite justified, but the problem is that it worked against identifying and researching other very interesting aspects of socialist Yugoslav musical culture, one of which is the subject of our project. The other, our other kind of incentive was that we wished to kind of, if not confront, then at least qualify the general contempt against disco music, which is almost universally held by progressive commentators to be a piece of commercial musical junk, basically, yeah? A product of exploitative musical industry with no or very little cultural social value. Of course, our contention is that it is not the case, that it has cultural values, but also that it is expressive of the late socialist context in which it emerged. The idea here is that, what you could see from the clip, kind of intrinsic values that were linked with disco music is this hedonism, this consumerism, spectacle, that are very hard to link with the core socialist project, and which, with its search for the new man and with its modernistic progress. However, what happened is that disco music flourished, and not only in socialist Yugoslavia, but in whole socialist bloc. If I would now go to YouTube again and type in Moscow Olympics 1980 official theme song, I would get indicatively an Estonian singer singing in Russian. What is it? Basically a Soviet version of the disco sound. So in the 1980s in the Soviet Union, disco was also present. So how can we actually explain this? Why was this so? Our idea is that disco is one among many illustrations of how these late socialist regimes found a new way to legitimize their rule, away from the core ideological values, and they showed great tolerance to these consumerist lifestyles and to pursuit of this individual pleasures, as I say, at the expense of these core ideological values. And finally, we wish to present the disco beyond the narrow music realm. We think that it has wide-ranging effects that also concern some cultural and social realms. So, in line with this kind of our approach to disco as a complex phenomenon, we approach many different galleries because we wish to approach it from different angles. How we plan to do so. So, first thing we wish to show how disco kind of penetrated the Yugoslav environment, and we will do so in two steps. First, we will present the direct import of disco products, such as kind of records of these disco stars, such as Donna Summer or Bonnie M, and also releases of seminal disco films, which were broadly shown in Yugoslavia, of course, starting with the Saturday Night Fever, which kind of which initiated the whole disco craze in Yugoslavia. The second thing is that we recognize disco as a kind of original music form that revitalized clubbing and nightlife. And this is actually, although it's not often researched, this is very important because we know how clubbing and nightlife has extremely important part and continues to have in lives of many, especially young people in their formative years. And so it is important, we wish to see how this music form actually evolved in a context which was foreign to where it originally emerged first in the United States and then in Western Europe. Two other things that are closely related to this. One is evolving DJ culture, which also kind of has different attitudes, and where you have which is kind of how would I say this, which is shift from live performances, and now the center of attention is in this the DJ who reacts to the crowd movements and tries to find appropriate music. So we wish to kind of reconstruct the contemporary discotheque and recognizing it as a space which defined disco culture, and in that sense important is this shift towards market socialism. So discotheques were not only in official youth clubs, but there were a number of privately organized discotheques, just as they were in the West. And for instance, Studio 55 was often quoted as a kind of norm or model, better to say. Third thing, disco is connected with a specific visual and aesthetic codes, with a heavy dose of both kitsch and camp, which we also argue should not be that easily kind of dismissed, because however funny it is, it actually challenged and transgressed the established sexual and gender norms with its kind of extravagant portrayals. One example is the flourishing and the appearance of female singers, which then both kind of challenged the traditional views to female sexuality, because it was an ambiguous kind of phenomenon, because it at the same time both empowered women but also objectified them. And fourth thing, we argue that disco has a huge social relevance, that it became a core of the new youth lifestyle and worldview. Usually it was seen as a strictly conformist worldview, but on the other hand, it became a kind of mean by which certain marginalized social groups, such as Romas, became and gained actually urban visibility, because they were the ones who dominated these disco competitions that were conveniently called trautiadas in Yugoslavia. So I will, instead of kind of summary, I will just say two more things. First, we also wish to kind of present and provide a new kind of user experience with regards to the gallery. We want to create exhibition which people will not only go to see, but they will dance there. The other thing is that we also will have a strong visual kind of component, and then a really wonderful design duo called Yugodron, who reconstruct historical typefaces. They will do the whole visual design of the project. And finally, instead of the summary, there is a stay tuned. You're all invited to join in and dance in March at our exhibition. Thanks.